Hello and welcome to your practice. Today we'll have a well-rounded vinyasa flow that should last just around an hour, and it'll focus on some side bends, lateral flexion stretches, and a full body workout. When you're ready, make your way to your mat, coming to mountain posture. Soften your gaze or gently allow your eyelids to close. Begin by breathing gently in through the nose and out of your nose. Feel your toes spread and your heels settle deeply into the earth. Begin to feel a little lift in the pelvic floor and a lengthening in your spine. Torso strong, posture long, extended. And from this place of grounded foundation, we'll begin to move into a side bend stretch, choosing one arm and reaching it up and overhead across the midline. And making your way back to the center and switching sides. You can flow right along with your own breath rhythm. It doesn't have to match mine. Just make sure you continue to breathe steadily in and out. Once you're feeling even and balanced, make your way back to mountain. Check in once again and make sure that you're standing tall, long through your spine, and we'll get ready to flow right into some twisting chair postures. We'll begin by reaching both arms up overhead to extended mountain, and then slowly begin to sit down into an imaginary stool as you rotate over towards one side. One hand can go right behind your body here, right at the sacrum, with your palm facing backward. The other hand can come across and just hook on the outside of the leg near the knee. When you're ready, reach back up to the center, extended mountain, and then we'll go right into that twist on the other side. As you do this, make sure that your knees remain parallel. As you twist in one direction, it can be easy to start to shift the hips and sort of turn the pelvis. But try to keep the knees parallel, the hips and the pelvis square. We'll just do one more on each side. And then we'll meet back in extended mountain. Bringing your palms and your finger pads together and slowly hinging down from the hips all the way to a forward bend. When you're ready, take a little look forward and step back, bringing one knee to the ground and then the other. You'll find yourself in a tabletop position. It doesn't matter if you're facing the top of your mat or facing the long edge here. Take a breath and then slowly bring your hands up to your hips, hinging all the way up to a high kneeling position. If you have tenderness in your knees at this point, you might want to grab a blanket and place it underneath your knees for padding. We're going to do a little flow between a kneeling side plank and gate posture. So to begin, take one leg out long to the side, and then bring your hand down, stacking your wrist right underneath your shoulder. So this is our kneeling side plank, and you can reach your arm up overhead, or you can even reach it out beyond the body to continue with that theme of side bend lengthening. When you're ready, make your way back up, using your core strength to return to the center, and we'll transition right into gate posture, bringing the hand down to the side of your leg and reaching up through the opposite arm. You could even reach up and over slightly. And those are going to be the two postures that we flow between. So take your time, move with your breath. You could certainly inhale during one of the postures and exhale during the other. Or another pattern that I like is to inhale in the center and exhale during each of the two postures. So we would inhale to come back and exhale to come over. So choose whatever breath pattern works for you. Just make sure that your breath is constant and flowing. For this last round, maybe you decide you want to add a little challenge and lift your top leg, taking a pause here in your kneeling side plank. And then taking one more moment in that gate posture. Eventually, we'll return to the center, bringing both knees in about hip width distance apart, and take a pause. Take a deep breath in and let it out. When you feel ready to change sides, stretch your opposite leg out to the side and bring the other hand down under the shoulder. We'll start on this side in our kneeling plank. And then we'll transition through the center and come right into gate posture. You might want to keep the first few pretty gentle and then deepen as you see how you feel. For this last round, feel free to take that extra challenge of lifting your leg, holding in your side plank, and then gently setting the foot back down as you pass back through to gate. When you're finished, bring your knees back towards each other. And now, if you were facing the long edge of your mat before, you'll want to turn back to the top of your mat and slowly sit all the way down, heels towards the tailbone for our first child's pose. Child's pose is a great place to set up for downward facing dog. Your proportions will be just about right if you stretch out your arms, spread your fingers, and tuck your toes right from where you're at. Then imagine that someone's pulling your belt loops back. You'll end up in a downward facing dog that's just about right for your body proportions. Of course, if you feel like you need to move your feet back a little bit or scooch them forward, that's totally fine. So we'll hold here for a few breaths, or you might choose to pedal out your feet a little bit. When you're ready, take a look towards the front of your mat and slowly make your way all the way to the top of the mat. We're going to take a little halfway lift, and we're going to set up for a little flow through some lunges. So if you have blocks available or even 2 thick books, this is a great time to set those up. Putting them right underneath your shoulders so that they're prepared, and then stepping back with one foot, either foot. Step forward with that foot, take a little halfway lift, and then switch sides. This time we'll add a little bit of intensity. So step back with your original front foot, and if you're feeling good here, try reaching the arms up and overhead, then bringing them back down to the floor or to your blocks and stepping forward to your half lift. Once again, step back, opposite side this time, reach up, lower down, and step forward. Keep alternating at your own pace. If this feels like a little bit too much of a balance challenge, or you just want to deepen the stretch, feel free to come down to a kneeling lunge. When you're feeling even and balanced on both sides, come back to the top of your mat and take a slow forward bend. If you are using blocks, move them out of the way and circle sweep all the way up to extended mountain. We'll take a pause here in mountain posture to prepare for our continued warm-up with sun salutations. So settle in and take a slow, deep breath. Then circle sweep both arms up overhead and send the palms right through the center to find your forward bend. We'll lead this first round with the right leg, so step your right foot back, and then follow with the left foot, finding a plank. For this first round, we'll move from the knees. So we'll bring our knees to the ground and shift forward, and slowly lower all the way down, grazing the sides of the body with the elbows, bringing the forehead all the way down to the floor. Using your back and abdominal strength, Roll up to cobra. Settle back down to the earth and press back to child's. Just like we practiced before, you can come right into your downward facing dog from here, keeping your arms outstretched, tucking your toes, and pulling back. We'll continue to lead this round with the right leg. So when you feel ready, step your right foot through to the front of the mat, and then follow with the left foot, coming into your halfway lift, and then taking your back, forward fold. Spread your toes, press into the balls of the feet and the heels, and circle sweep all the way up, coming through extended mountain to a gentle back bend. And then meeting in mountain pose, right where we began. Take a breath. We'll do the exact same thing again, this time leading all the way through with the left foot. Inhale to rise. Exhale to fold. Take a look forward and guide your left foot back, followed by the right. You can stay lifted here or come right down into your kneeling plank. Take a shift forward and hover all the way to the floor. Roll up to cobra and back down. From here, press back to child's posture. And then tuck the toes and pull back to downward facing dog. Stay here for a full cycle of breath. When you're ready, step your left foot forward and follow with the right. Taking a half lift and a forward fold. Slowly rise up to a gentle back bend and finish in mountain, taking a breath. Let's do one more full round, so one more leading with each foot. Reaching up to extended mountain, hinging down to forward fold, stepping back with the right foot, and then with the left. This time, you might bring your knees down or you might keep them up and shift forward, come through Chaturanga Dandasana, and then come to the tops of your feet for upward facing dog. From here, pull back and find your way to downward facing dog. Step your right foot through to the front of your mat and follow with the left. Slowly deepen down into your forward fold. And then we'll press all the way up and take a little back bend. Finishing that round in mountain, taking a deep breath in and out. One more time through, reaching up, folding down, looking forward and guiding your left foot back, followed by your right, and shifting through that vinyasa, chaturanga, upward facing dog, downward facing dog, and then we'll step the left foot forward, Follow with the right. One more forward bend. And press all the way up into your back bend. Make your way back to find steadiness in mountain. As we move on, you can continue to face the front of your mat. I'm just going to turn this way so that you can see what we're doing next. We're going to go right into a revolved chair. And we can do it just the way that we already did during warm-up, with some space between the knees, bringing one hand across the body. Or if you'd like to go a little bit deeper, bring your big toes together and squeeze the inner thighs towards the midline. From here, reach all the way up and slowly lower down into your chair posture. So if you're doing that version we did earlier, your legs are apart here. Otherwise, we're kind of squeezing the legs into one piece. Either way, get as low as you feel comfortable and then start to twist in one direction. We'll take about 3 breaths there, and then we'll make our way all the way back up. Bring the hands together, slowly lower down, and twist to the opposite direction. When you're ready to come back to mountain, just pause here and take a full breath. So we're going to do that again on both sides, but this time with an option to step back for a little balance challenge in a lunge. So again, we'll reach up, lower down to chair, and then begin to revolve. From here, you'll have your elbows or your hand over on one thigh. Take the opposite foot and guide it back. If this feels challenging to balance with your hands in the prayer position, drop one hand down and reach the other arm up. This is a great option too. Whether you're coming from this position or your hands are still together, release them now, bringing the hands down to either side of your front foot and slowly step forward. Taking a half lift and a forward fold. And then pressing into the feet to rise all the way up. Bring the hands to heart center. Edge the big toes together if you're taking that more narrow stance. We'll circle sweep up again and sit down to prepare for the other side. When you're ready, take your twist and then step back. Once you've taken 3 or 4 breaths here, return to the center, frame the front foot with your hands, and step forward. Taking a half lift and a forward fold. And press all the way up to extended mountain. And then bring the hands to the center for mountain. Take a breath. From here, we're gonna move into our first warrior posture, warrior one. So right from where you are, keep your right foot at the top of your mat. And if you've got blocks that you're using, you might wanna move them really close because we're gonna be going from this warrior one into a pyramid posture, and it can be really helpful in that pose. So from warrior one, step back, keeping some space between your feet, left to right. So feet are still hip width distance apart. We'll take about 3 breaths here in warrior one. When you're ready to transition into that pyramid posture, take a little length in your leg and slowly hinge down from your hips. If you're using blocks, bring your hands right to the blocks, pausing there, and then perhaps deepening by bending your elbows. When you're ready, take a little lift so that your shoulders are about parallel or at the same height as your hips. We are going to move out into a supported 3-pointed balance here. So blocks will definitely come in handy. I'm going to turn mine up a little notch and find balance here. Notice that just like in Warrior 3, my back hip is internally rotated and my toes are pointing down. We're going to be working our way into a balanced half moon though. So take a few little practice external rotations, seeing how it feels to point the toes out to the side. When you feel ready, you might try bringing your hand to your heart or even up and overhead. Taking some time here in balanced half moon. And when you've had enough and you're ready to come out, bring both hands back to your blocks, and we'll make our way right back to where we started, Warrior One. Take a breath, feel the steadiness and the strength in your legs. When you're ready, step to the front of your mat. You can keep facing just the way that you are, but I'll do this next round facing you. We'll begin in Warrior One, taking a few breaths here. And then we'll lengthen the front leg and hinge down from the hips into pyramid posture. Remember, your blocks will likely be your friend here. When you feel ready, lift your torso back up and begin to move your blocks out in front so that you can come into that 3-pointed balance. Just like we did on the other side, take a few practice rotations at the hip. Turning your toes out to the side and then back down. When you feel ready, externally rotate the hip, plant your hand, the same hand as the leg that is stable and on the floor, plant it on the block, Bring your opposite hand to your heart or up and overhead. When you're ready, return to your blocks. Lower the back foot to the floor and lift up to Warrior One. Take a breath. Step forward to mountain and feel the solidity of your foundation, your mat and the earth under your feet. We're going to come back to our Warrior One posture with the right foot forward. So take a step back with your left leg. Take a breath here. And then we're going to straighten the front leg. Once again, revisiting pyramid posture, but this time only coming down about halfway. So you'll want to keep your shoulders right around the same height as your hips here. You might move your blocks to either side of the front foot. We're just using this pyramid posture as a setup for a revolved triangle. So when you feel ready to go, plant your left hand on the block, which can be about hip distance away from your front foot, or for more challenge, you might move it closer. Then, slowly begin to rotate through your spine, reaching up to find your twist. When you're ready, return your lifted arm back to the block. Remember what that twist felt like, because we're going to go right into it again, this time adding an element of balance. So we already tried our balanced half moon. We're going to try a revolved balanced half moon now. So move your blocks forward. Find that three-pointed balance just like before. And then keep your left hand on the block as you twist and rotate, the same way you just did in revolved triangle. Eventually, bring your hand back to the block and take your time to return to Warrior One. We're going to do that all with the left foot forward, but I'll turn again so that you can see from a different angle. Begin by stepping your right foot back and finding steadiness in your Warrior One position. Then we'll straighten the front leg, hinge forward about halfway until you can locate your blocks. Taking a little half lifted pyramid. Keep your right hand on your block and begin to rotate your spine into a revolved triangle. When you feel ready, come all the way back down, shifting forward into your three-pointed balance, or if you feel comfortable, just keeping your right hand on the block. And then lifting your left arm up for revolved balanced half moon. When you're feeling ready to return, come down slowly, softening your front knee and making your way back to warrior one, right where we began. We'll step forward to the front of the mat, taking a pause, checking in mountain. And then we'll reach all the way up to extended mountain and come slowly down through your forward fold. From here, we'll make our way back to downward facing dog. When you've had enough time there, lower your knees to the ground and slowly drift on back to child's posture. After you've checked in here and found a steady deep breath, bring your hands to the space right underneath your shoulders and slowly lift all the way up to a kneeling position. From here, we're going to make our way into a seated staff. Just take a moment here to check on the orientation of your pelvis. If it's tipping back, these next few postures will be a good time to roll up the back of your mat and sit up on that. We definitely want to twist from a neutral pelvis and with a long spine. So give yourself every advantage. You could even use a folded towel or a folded blanket. From here, we're going to take some space between the legs. So they'll come off to the edges outside of your mat. We'll get ready for a twist. Reaching both arms up and overhead. And then rotating towards one side. It doesn't matter which side, we're gonna do both. You might keep one hand in front and one hand behind, or you can bring that front hand over to the side of your leg, as long as you aren't really pressing hard. Feel free to look towards your own back shoulder to deepen the twist. When you're ready, make your way back to center. I'm going to turn to face you for the other side, but you can start by just reaching your arms up and overhead. On your exhalation, slowly revolve. When you're ready to return, unravel and reach up towards the sky and release your arms down to either side. From here, we're going to go into our head to knee posture, Janashir Shasana. So return to that seated staff where we just were and choose one foot to bring in towards your inner thigh. Lengthen up through the spine, take a deep breath to prepare, and slowly begin to hinge forward from your hips. Just come down a comfortable amount. You don't actually have to bring your head all the way down to your knee or to your shin. Bring your hands back under your shoulders and slowly hinge up. We're going to transition from here right into a twist, half Lord of the Fishes posture. So from here, take your outstretched leg and draw it in. Your other leg can tuck a little further towards the midline. That leg that was outstretched will come across. Remember, if your pelvis starts to tip back, that's a good sign that you might find a blanket, a folded blanket, to be really helpful. So from here, sit tall and take a little twist towards your top bent knee. You might hold on with your arm just like I'm doing here, or you could allow your elbow to pass right over top of your knee and point your fingers down or upward. When you're finished, come back to center and return back to your seated staff posture. For the opposite side, I'll turn. Remember, we started before that twist with head to knee posture. So we'll want to do that on the opposite side too. Bring your foot in towards your inner thigh. Take a long spine and a deep breath to begin. And slowly invite your torso down into your fold. Once you're feeling like you've had enough time here, walk your hands back in and come to a nice long spine. We'll take that knee that is tipped out to the side and bring it back in towards the midline. Actually, take it back out. We're going to come right into our half Lord of the Fishes. So that knee that's pointed out to the side will slide under slightly as the outstretched leg steps over. You can stay here with a long spine and just hold your top knee, or just like before, you've got those options to let your elbow pass the midline, fingers pointing up or down, whichever feels best to your body. Every inhalation allows you to sit a little taller. Every exhalation allows us to twist back a little more fully. When you feel ready, release and stretch both legs all the way out into your seated staff posture. We're going to move into a revolved head to knee pose, which is really different than our straight on head to knee posture. So begin by taking one leg out to the side, like you're in a half straddle split. You might want to turn towards the long edge of your mat like I've done here, or if you're still facing the top of your mat, your leg will simply stretch all the way off the mat out to the side. From here, start by lengthening your spine and taking both arms out into a T shape. Take a big deep breath in, and then begin to tip towards your outstretched leg. To start, it might be nice to just hold right onto your shin or to your ankle, and reach the opposite arm up and overhead. If you've got some shoulder issues or discomfort, a nice modification would be just to bring that top hand to your hip or into a half bind. If you're feeling good here, you can go a little deeper, perhaps even taking your yogi toe hold and bringing your top arm up and over. We've been preparing the side body for lateral flexion all through this practice, so see how it feels right here. Maybe you even give yourself a thumbs up and hold your thumb with your top hand, or hold the outside edge of your foot. But if you find yourself twisting downward, make sure that you back up a little bit and take it a little more moderate, because this is an open twist where the top ribs spiral open towards the ceiling. One more breath here. And then make your way back to the center. When you're ready, switch sides. We'll begin by inhaling and sitting up tall, bringing that same side hand to the shin, same as the outstretched leg. The other arm might just reach straight up overhead, or it might come to your hip, or you might start to find that side bending. It's totally fine if one side looks and feels different than the other. Remember, that's not your bad side, it's your second favorite side. We'll take one more breath. And then come back to the center. From here, we're going to move just for a moment back to our seated staff. And we're going to get ready to roll all the way down onto our backs. If you happen to have blocks handy from earlier in the practice, you might want to move them all the way to the back of your mat now, so that they're within easy reach once you come all the way onto your back. Then, hold on right behind one leg and guide your body all the way down to the floor. Here, you can draw both knees into your chest. Bring your left foot to the ground and stretch your right foot up into the air, holding on right around your calf or your hamstrings. Or if you feel like it's within reach, you could grab your big toe. Feel free to use a strap if you have one. And if you'd like to deepen the stretch for the other leg, you can lengthen that leg out. We'll take a few breaths here and then reach your left arm all the way up overhead. Take a little abdominal curl to prepare to externally rotate that right leg. We're going to open the whole body up into a plus sign or a T shape. You might feel really supported by sliding one of your blocks right underneath your outer thigh. From here, make your way back to center. Keep working with that same leg, but bring your toe or the strap or your calf into the other hand. And let your leg cross the midline ever so slightly. You're likely going to feel a nice big stretch in your hamstrings and around the IT band area. And that's exactly what we want here. After you've taken a few breaths here, we can take it all the way down into a twist. So bring your leg down towards the earth, and you might slide your bottom hip under now. If you want to ground your back shoulder down, pick both shoulders up and roll it back and down, looking back away from your outstretched leg. When you're ready, return to center and simply hug that knee back into your chest. We'll release the right foot to the floor and stretch the left foot up. We get to do it all again on the other side. Remember, you can hold your hamstrings, your calf, or your big toe. And this whole sequence feels really good if you have a strap to use. Your right leg can remain bent to help ground and settle your lower back, or you can stretch it out. When you're ready, reach your right arm up and overhead and take a lift, a little abdominal curl. Then start to lengthen out with your right arm and let your left leg open up to the side. Remember that supportive option of placing a block underneath the top of your hip. The higher the block goes, the more support you'll have, so adjust accordingly. Let's take one more breath here. And then come back to the center. Trading the hand that's holding your toe or your leg, and just moving the leg past the midline by about 1 foot. Feeling the stretch in your glute, IT band, and around the hamstrings. When you're ready to take it all the way over into your twist, just let the leg come down to the block or the floor and do a little shift so that your hips are stacked and your shoulders are moving towards perpendicular with your hips. Eventually, guide yourself back to the center and bend both knees, bringing both feet down to the ground. We're coming to the end of this practice, but before we move into our final relaxation time, we're going to spend a little time in our restorative posture for today. So, you can do this pose with no blocks, but I love the support of the blocks for reclined butterfly or Supta Baddha Konasana. Again, the higher they are on your legs, the more support you have. So adjust accordingly and find the amount of support that feels just right to you. Allow the soles of your feet to come together and your knees to open up like a book. Your arms might rest by your sides or on your belly, wherever they feel comfortable. Feel free to close your eyes and just let your body receive the benefits of a restorative posture. No more work, no more effort, just soft waves of breath, gently in and out. When you feel ready to transition into relaxation, bring your hands to your outer thighs to help guide your knees back towards the midline. From here, you can simply stretch the legs all the way out onto the ground, perhaps using your blocks as a rest for your hands. Stay here for as long as you like. I recommend somewhere between 5 to 10 minutes for an hour-long practice like we've just had. So feel free to pause this recording and take the rest that you need. When you feel like you've had enough time, gently gather your knees into your chest. And then slowly guide your body over onto one side. Eventually, press your top hand into the earth to come all the way up to a seated position. Taking a moment here to sit with a long spine and feel the effects of your practice. Eventually, bring your hands together in front of your chest, thanking yourself for showing up today, and I thank you for practicing with me. Namaste.